celebration, and we just had our 50th last year, and we bought a new bench for the high school that we put in the new pathway that you have behind the big stone. And we just put a plaque on the rock out there also commemorating those students who went to Brunswick High School that died during the Korean and Vietnam Wars. So we did that memorial to them just recently. But I'm a student of St. John's. I went there for 8 years and then came here to Brunswick High. And for me, it was a totally new experience because I'm French. And coming here to Brunswick High School was a new experience because everybody here spoke English. And we were often looked upon like, I think they're talking about us because they're speaking another language. And I'd have to say, no, it's easy to fall into your native tongue when you're with your people you grew up with. So eventually everyone became friends. I have a lot of good friends from Brunswick High School that I still keep in touch with. And I just moved back here 4 years ago to retire. So I found out that my class is still meeting twice a year for a spring dinner and a fall dinner. And they've been doing that for a number of years, and that's really nice because we get to see about 35 to 40 of the classmates at one time. So we enjoy that. And we just had one recently at the Brunswick Golf Club. Well, I had met George. He was a cousin of a girl that went to school here with me, Leilani Morrison. And George would come to our dances here. So I used to dance with him a lot, and he was a very good dancer. So when it came time for prom, she said, ask George to take you. I said, well, I don't know if he'd take me or not, because he's from the rival school, Morris High. But he took me anyway, and we had a very good time. Yeah, so tonight he brought me pictures that I had misplaced of our prom. So.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it was really a great joy for me to take Doris to the prom because she being a graduate of 1957 and me being a graduate of 1959 from Morse, it was a learning experience for me to be out here with all these big kids after being just a sophomore. But we done really well. We had a lot of fun. Yeah. And I think the rivalry between Brunswick and Morse was tremendous. I mean, it was really made the whole community really. Because one year Morse would be up, another year Brunswick would be up, and it might be football, it might be basketball, one would be better than the other, but we always had a great rivalry and a lot of fun. And I was really pleased to take Doris to the prom back in 1957.
That was a lot of fun. We have some good memories. We're talking about tonight. I've met his wife, so we're having a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope we can do it in the next 50 years.
Oh, yeah. I plan to. My mother lived to be 99, so.
There you go.
There you go.
And thank you very much for interviewing us tonight, because we're very pleased to be here for this reunion.
Jim Fish, class of 1957.
Jack Frost, class of 57.
Like I said, Jack, in fact, my dad was in the service, and we came here in 1952 or 53. And Jack was one of the first people that I had met when I came here. I was a new guy. I came from Pensacola, Florida, with my family. So anyway, Jack and I have been together for quite a while. Anyway, we never got in trouble in school. Do you remember Mario Tonin? No. Don't remember Mario Tonin. Mario Tonin, well, he was a principal.
The best principal.
He was an excellent principal. He became the superintendent of school probably in early 60s, somewhere in that area. Took over for Mr. Krause. Anyway, so we've been together for all through high school.
There was a door down on the wing, one of the wings of this building, the farther wing down. That door was not there when I was initially here in Brunswick High School.
Well, the wing it was just being built.
It was just
brand
the wing.
new.
There was a door down there on the inside of that wing that is now there. That wasn't there in the original plans. That was there only because this guy and a couple other guys found it within their power to push me through a plate glass window. So rather than replace that plate glass window, they put in a door. So that's the Jack Frost Memorial
Jack Frost
door.
Yes. And we
Mario Tonin was not too awfully pleased with that
he was.
particular episode.
Brunswick High School was a great place to go to school. I enjoyed it a whole lot, even though I had a tendency once in a while to get into some problems. But see, the teachers that we know and the teachers that are there now are completely and totally different. We had a teacher named Mrs. Morse, and we used to call her Fish Face Morse, which I'm sure that you guys have names for your teachers. And she was very strict, and but we.
I don't remember her.
You don't remember? She was I think she was an English teacher, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, she was very strict. And one time she had a study hall. I was in a study hall, and she was the teacher in charge. And I had to go to the bathroom, and she wasn't there. So I decided that I would just get up and walk out and go to the bathroom. Well, unfortunately, as I get up and into the hallway, Mrs. Morse was coming back from wherever she was at, and she caught me, red-handed, nothing I could do. And the only thing she said was, "James, go down and see Mr. Tonin right now." And unfortunately, I had seen Mr. Tonin on several previous occasions. So as I walked into the office, his door was open, and he was standing over his desk looking at some papers or something, and he saw me walk through the outer entryway door, and he said, "Oh my God, not you again." I tried to explain that it wasn't my fault, I really had to go to the bathroom, which of course he realized was not the absolute truth. And all he said was, "Go home." So I was out of school for the rest of that day. But however, I do not speak badly of Mr. Tonin at all, because he was very fair and a very good principal, and we all enjoyed it.
I don't know what your high school experiences are, but in 1950s, the office consisted of the principal of the school, who was Mario Tonin. I believe there was an assistant principal.
Yeah.
There was a guidance counselor, and then there were a couple of people around that did admin work. And that was it. You didn't have this myriad of people involved in the administration of a high school. Those 5 or 6 people were it when it came to Brunswick High School, administering how many 600 or 700 kids.
Gosh, yeah, we had 155 in our class.
So times have changed dramatically.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I don't think the discipline has gotten any better with all those particular administrative people there too.
Probably not. Anyway, it was a good 4 years. We enjoyed it quite a bit. One other experience that I will relate that occurred in the old school. Downstairs, they used to have classrooms that the windows looked right out level with the lawn. You could stand outside and be about 4 feet up from the bottom from the floor of the classroom. And we had I was taking a mechanical drawing course, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe his name was Lunt, was the teacher. And he was a very lenient and a very nice guy, but he couldn't handle, they were all boys in that class, of course, and some of the boys were shop boys, and some of them were quite rowdy. But anyway, I think at the time I was a junior, and trying to keep up with the seniors and the big boys, I was going to do something spectacular. Well, it was probably early spring, I don't know, May, something in that area maybe, and the windows were open. And so Mr. Lunt would have a tendency to walk up and down the aisleways there between the desks. And as he's walking back up towards the front of the room, I got up and jumped out the window right in the middle of his class. Well, unbeknownst to me, right outside the class, there were some maintenance people that were trimming the hedges or cutting the trees or mowing the lawn or something. And the principal, Mario Tonin, was right there. When I jumped out the window and I walked around one of the shrubberies there, one of the bushes, he was standing right there. Fortunately, he was back to me. It scared the living daylights out of me. I turned around and I jumped back through that window at a full flying leap. And of course, Mr. Lunt, the teacher, up at the front of the room, was by this time turned around and watching the rest of the students. He saw me come through that window, going 100 miles an hour, because I was going to get the heck away from Mario Tonin. I hit the floor, ran over to my desk, sat down. And all Mr. Lunt said was, now, Mr. Fish, we'll have none of that. That's all he said. Any other teacher would have said, you, go see the principal. So he was a good guy. Anyway, and there were numerous other experiences, I'll tell you. But Mr. Tonin, our principal, did a very good job. All of the teachers were good, as a matter of fact.
In those days, it was the standard procedure that at the end of a term that Mario Tonin would get up on the PA system and he would announce the people who were on the honor roll, on the dean's list or whatever it was called.
I don't know. I never made it.
Well, and he would say, and it would be done in the morning or the afternoon, and you'd be all in your homerooms, and he'd announce it. So there was no stigma attached to succeeding in any way. So he's reading this list, all right, and at that time I was a junior or a senior, and he's reading this list, and finally gets to my class, and he's reading it through very, very slowly and very distinctly, and he says, and Jack Frost. Jack Frost? How did he get on this list? So I think it was the only time I made the dean's list. But anyway, that was a nice time.
You gotta be kidding.
No, I'm not kidding you.
No,
Right out loud. How did he get on that list?
Mr. Tonin was a very astute individual. I mean, he understood people and children, kids, high school kids, very well. And he was I think he was probably the most fair. Although I got kicked out of school on several occasions, I think he was very fair. I think I deserved it.
Talking about getting kicked out of school.
Oh, gee.
My brother was 2 years behind me, and we managed to get kicked out of school on the same day. My brother was kicked out of the Mr. Bonang's class. You may know his name. He was teaching biology at the time. Pretty famous Brunswick High School teacher. And he managed to kick my brother out of school for dropping a worm down the back of the gal in front of him. And I got kicked out for going through this window where the door is now. And we managed to show up at home at the same time. And my mother said, "What the hell are you guys doing here?" And it was because Mario Tonin decided we needed to go home. All on the same day.
He never kicked you out for any really lengthy period of time. But when I got home and had to face my parents, it was worse than getting kicked out of school, I'll tell you. I bet kids nowadays do the same thing on the same level as we did. I think nothing ever changes, I don't think, when you're in high school, except for the teachers.
Pretty much. That's good. Say your name real quick.
Say and spell my name.
Okay.
Patty Sparks, Patty Sparks.
All right.
Sparks, 1965.
Hold on. You hit that. You've got to make sure you hit that the second before this.
I'm going to melt, guys. Go. Patty Sparks, 1965. My story, favorite story. I was a freshman. They had a brand new Ford Falcon that they were going to do driver ed with. It was winter. I was the first one in the car. Mr. Fox got next to me. He was the driver ed teacher. And I had driven standards, but never automatics. And I didn't quite understand what the letters were. And he said, just put it in neutral, Patty, and then give it gas, and you'll see you won't go anywhere. Well, I didn't know what those letters meant, so I put it in R and released the handbrake, and I gunned it. I ended up in the snowbank, first person in the brand new driver ed car, smashed the tail lights out of it. Mr. Fox looked at me and said, Patty, get out of the car. I got out of the car. Mario Tonin, our principal, announced to the whole school that day that some freshman had wrecked the new driver ed car, so there would not be any driver ed classes until the car was fixed. As a freshman walking down these halls, everybody's going, who's the nerd that broke the back lights of the new driver ed car and smashed it all over the school? I was totally a ghost. I didn't want anybody to, I walked around like this because I knew who had done it, and I kept praying that nobody found out that it was me.